Hey everybody, it's attorney Justin Lovely. I'm coming at you live again from Red Rock Harley Davidson. We're out here talking to my fellow referral partners, some of the best lawyers that I know, and one of my best friends in the legal community, Jason Melton. We helped found the National Academy of Motorcycle Injury Lawyers right before COVID.
Yep.
It's awesome. You're the president now.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it because I did it the year before.
And I'm glad you did it first.
I know, man. But we're shooting some podcasts out here. You know, we're meeting. It's a great thing. We get together a couple times a year and we say, hey, what's working to help our clients? You know, and some things that are working in Central Florida might be some takeaways I take back to South Carolina and likewise, right?
Yeah, I mean, the mastermind effect it's real. I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy to say it, but like most of the people who think the wrong things about masterminds have never done one.
Right.
And anyone who's done one, like, very rare you meet someone like, masterminds are not for me. Like, not for you.
Got to have it.
Yeah, you're talking to people who do exactly what you do in another place in the United States, basically with the same issues, almost identical. And they've either tried or they wanted to try all the same stuff that you want to try or you have tried. You can save each other thousands of dollars, right, just by not failing at the same stuff.
Right.
And then you pick up ideas. You know, when are you going to sit down and hang out with other owners and directors of marketing or even legal strategy and hear them talk about the same things that you have right now in your own firm? You're not. You're going to talk to other lawyers who are frankly looking to you for advice or direction. Here, it's so collaborative. For me, it's like therapy. I know it's silly, but
Yeah.
I just I think therapy is great generally. And for me, this is like business therapy. I love it.
It really is. And it ultimately trickles down to the client, right?
100%.
And raises your average fee, raises the quality of representation.
Absolutely. There's so many things that we do better because I've been coming to masterminds for like 7 years now. I mean, there's every part of my firm has changed somehow because of masterminds.
And when you look back, I'm sure you have this feeling too. When you look back, you're like, how was that? What was we doing back then?
I mean,
Wow.
like listen, I get it. We're doing a podcast here, and there's an element of this that's going to end up into some sort of marketing channel. But like my firm has had some amazing verdicts in cases in the last 3 or 4 years, and some amazing settlements in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of that, a great majority of that, is the product of meeting with other people like you and some of our other friends. I look back at what I was doing 10 years ago, and I was working hard. I was working just as hard as I'm working now. I still had good ideas. I know I was creative, but now it's like you hit that nitro button.
Yeah.
Because I'm being creative and I'm listening to other people being creative also, and I'm taking all the best parts of everything that they say and making it my own little creation. It's like art that way, you know.
Yeah.
People always say, "Oh, he plagiarized this or that art. They just copied that work." All art and all music, to some degree, is plagiarized from stuff before. It's You take what you like and you make it your own.
Right.
And I think the practice of law, you know, not to sound too crazy, I think it's the same thing.
Right.
We take little bits of stuff that we really like from people who we respect, and that's why I love these organizations.
And then you could come back, for me at least, I think you would agree, when you come home after meeting and learning these new techniques to help your clients and help all the cases that you currently have and get new clients as well, you're energized, you're
big
pumped. Because this job is tough. We're trying to help these bikers who are hurt. We're trying to help our other car wreck clients that are hurt. And you mentioned therapy.
There's a lot of phony competition out there. Like,
100%.
I mean, there's so many guys that like advertise for all the stuff that we do. Consumers would never know who's actually doing the work,
Right.
as opposed to who's just taking it and referring it to somebody because they don't actually do anything. Like it's horrible.
Your market's Central Florida, but you're statewide. You handle everything in the state of Florida.
Yeah, Central Florida, like Ocala, the Villages, Gainesville, down into, you know, Hernando, Pasco, Sumter, and then all of Tampa Bay. That's where we do most of our work. But certainly we have offices in South Florida. We take cases all over the state, but the bulk of our work is kind of in the middle.
So something that stood out to me when I was talking to Mo DeWitt, and I kind of knew this, but I didn't know how bad it was, and I want to get your insight on it, is the way that they changed the insurance law. Well, one, you don't even have to have BI, but then they gutted your whole, with tort reform, gutted most of your liability laws. Go ahead and touch base on that.
Yeah, so for the longest time, you know, the big talking point about our insurance rules in Florida was that we didn't have any mandatory bodily injury coverage, which is
crazy. That is insanity.
It's absolute insanity. That means that people can lawfully drive with no insurance when they hurt someone based on not intentional conduct, just an accident. The things that human beings do every day.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something to be expected. It's not a surprise when people have accidents. So the state, for some reason, thinks that the insurance companies should be able to write these policies with these other pockets where they can charge for the stuff. And then the thing that the clients really need, the customers really need, is the BI coverage, and none of us have it. And so the rates, they usually say it's about 23 to 26% of riders. Let's just say drivers, not even riders of motorcycles. That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
But generally on the road, about 23 to 26% of people don't have bodily injury coverage. What's fascinating about that is that there's another 20 or so percent of people who have no insurance, none, because it's expired or they never bought it or whatever. So really you're looking at half the motorists in the state, or at least in the 40 percentage points, don't have any coverage for you when they hit you and it's their fault. And so it's totally incumbent upon every driver to get UM, to get under or uninsured motorist coverage. That's really the only insurance.
You're rolling the dice with your life every time you start your car in Florida.
Crazy. Time. And we, I know we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but the thing about bikers and bikers getting injured on bikes, everybody, there's this weird fog, like the cloud that follows bikers. We see it when we try cases, we pick juries, people's ideas about who bikers are and the way they behave. This is all like out of Hollywood. It's nonsense. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that bikers are just as diverse as people who drive cars and drive trucks. It's the same spectrum of people, right? And bikers generally, they're not getting hurt because they're going 1,000 miles an hour with the loudest, engine and screaming and stuff. They're getting in accidents because a 17-year-old is texting, her boyfriend or his girlfriend, not looking and taking a left in front of somebody, just following the speed limit.
Yep.
They're getting hurt because some truck driver is driving like 20 hours in a row because the Department of Transportation decided a few years ago during COVID to lift all the rules for drive times, and they never brought them back, and they're tired and they're crashing into people. Yep. That's why they're getting hurt.
Yep.
It's the same reasons we get hurt in cars.
Yep.
And the only problem is when you're on a motorcycle, there's no seatbelt, there's no roof, there's no windshield really,
and you may or may not be wearing a helmet.
Yeah, and that's put that aside. But these crashes are occurring for all the same reasons someone does in a car, to all the same people who are in cars. There's nothing special. These are not gangbangers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that some might be, but some might be in a car and be in a gang too.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same percentage.
And biker prejudice in the legal field is a real thing. And we have to know this. Part of coming to these meetings, we say, hey, how did you overcome that, Jason? You say, hey, this is how I did it, Justin. We share ideas, and now we've got more tools in our arsenal for our next motorcycle case.
Right. And so when we get ready for a trial in a biker case, we talk about all those things that I just went through. We talk to the jury and to see who's got a little bit of a bias. Who might say, yeah, but they're all in gangs or whatever. And then I know, hey, I'm getting that person off.
You want to know something crazy? So you don't have insurance or BI in Florida. We can't do attorney-led voir dire in South Carolina.
The judges do it?
Judges just ask we can submit questions, and then the judges will just read that question.
And you see that
but you can't examine them and strike that. So it's really hard to run a motorcycle case.
And so you see that. I mean, I would suggest, if I was in South Carolina, start submitting questions to the judge, saying, "Hey, will you ask this question?"
Oh yeah, right? Absolutely, we do. Sure, but here's what they do: they're I'm going to ask that. I won't ask that.
Right.
They strike half of our questions.
Handles that already.
Yeah. I hate that, man.
And so,
it's the worst.
And I don't know if you've tried cases in federal court before, but federal judges are like little kingdoms, and they all do their trials differently.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, yeah, go pick the jury, right?
Yeah.
And others are like what you just basically said. Not only are you not going to ask any questions, you're going to sit there. You're never going to talk, and don't even think about submitting questions to me.
Yeah.
And when I was a prosecutor, a little baby prosecutor in Miami, when I first started my career, we had a judge that would come off the bench and walk around the courtroom as though he was picking the jury, like walking around in his robe. Like, it was the funniest thing.
Wow.
He was a very nice guy, but I always thought that was a little strange.
Yeah. But it's important. It's a good point that you've brought up, is you have to have somebody who has this experience when you're trying to hire somebody to represent you on your motorcycle wreck.
100%.
Because these are things, somebody who's just trying to pick up a personal injury case and calls themselves, a motorcycle lawyer or a personal injury lawyer, has no clue when push comes to shove and we get to this point that you just mentioned. You have to pick a jury to get full value for the client.
It's to me like, if you could know nothing about the law, if you just follow sports, you would know. Would you hire someone to manage your baseball team or to be a head coach of your football team if they never played, never played in any of the types of games that you want your team to be in, right?
Yeah.
Had never been a part of a playoff team or a Super Bowl team, or never put on shoulder pads? Like, that would be insane, right? To invest all that money in your players and everything that's going on, and then to hand it over to some guy who was like an accountant and just like watch TV, right?
Yeah.
And the same is with the law, like, because you can hire lawyers that they have billboards, they look nice in their suits, and they're settlement mills, right?
Yeah.
And the insurance company, by the way, they know who those lawyers are too. It's not just us.
Yeah.
And the rest of us that take these cases, work on them, invest in them, hire great experts, just like that football team might hire great receivers and defensive linemen.
Yeah.
They want someone leading that team who knows how to finish the whole drill, take it all the way to the end, which means going to a trial, maybe even filing an appeal, all those things. Those are the firms that you want to hire.
100%.
And it's our job to let the public know who those firms are to the best we can. But it's frustrating.
It's something the public doesn't realize either, because a lot of times this is the first time they're ever going to use the services of a lawyer when they call us. But those insurance companies are keeping data on everybody, all of us. So they know who settles, they know who tries, they know who can do a good motion in limine, who can talk, who has good relationships with judges. They know who they are.
Yeah, and I can tell you too, just from having good relationships with mediators, they talk about it literally in caucus when they're going back and forth, during shuttle diplomacy, if you will, to try to get your case done. They know that clown is never going to try this case.
Oh, yeah.
They know that versus, they had a huge verdict, last week, or, they had the highest verdict in that county 2 years ago or whatever. Like, they know.
Yeah.
It's a big part of their evaluation. So, if you hire one of these settlement mills, just think about what's that negotiation going to look like when they ask for maybe policy limits. They know they can play around with that because there's no threat. Yeah. There's no or else.
Wow. So you mentioned you're about half, really, you're having this insurance problem. How many cases that you sign up are you going to have to withdraw from and have that terrible conversation with the client that there's no insurance?
It's the most frustrating part about being in Florida is that our attrition rate on cases is pretty high because we sign up really good cases in terms of, in every personal injury case, you basically need three things, right? You need liability. In other words, you want the accident not to be your fault or mostly not your fault. One of the law changes in Florida was dealing with comparative fault. That's that makes that determination even more important now. You need to have damages, right? So you have this accident that wasn't your fault. You need to have some damages that you can pursue, either injury, economic or non-economic, meaning, if you're hurt, pain and suffering, or if you had to close your business because you can't make it out of bed, right? And then causation. And causation is the biggest one. It's the most important one. We call it the case killer. It's the hardest part of your case. It's the part of your case that they will almost never stipulate to, unless it's like a leg off or a hand off case or something like this, right? And in order, you need these three pillars. And once you can determine if you have these three pillars, then you have to say, okay, well, now how is it going to get paid for? It's like the fourth pillar that that you don't talk about. The fourth pillar is where's the money coming from?
Right.
And, we get these cases, especially with bikers. They'll get hit. Somebody won't have BI insurance, right? And then the bikers won't have And
nightmare conversation.
It's terrible.
I hate it. It's the worst part of the practice.
Unless I can find a construction company that messed up the roads or something, or just I have to get real creative. Those cases are going bye-bye. It's terrible. And I hope they have health insurance,
Part of our accident scene management program that we sponsor, I know you sponsor them, I try to get one going every month, is we're teaching bikers about this underinsured motorist coverage and the problem that's going around, that's the only way you can protect yourself is raise your UIM to as much as you can afford.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest. To a man, does insurance actually protect you in the normal sort of vocabulary? No, it's not going to make you safer on the road. It's not going to protect you from cars and trucks and things like this. But the reality is that when you're in an accident, you're going to have major economic hardship, and you're going to probably have some medical hardship too. So one of the things about having a lawyer on an injury case where there's applicable insurance that you can chase to make a good recovery is that the good lawyers, are going to have great connections with really qualified doctors. Yep. Being able to put you in touch with those doctors, those experts, to come up with ideas and different tools to help you get back. I can tell you in my brain injury cases, It's amazing the things that we've been able to do just by putting them together in connection with really great therapists. They're not only mapping out those brain injuries and figuring out what types of injuries they have, but they're also giving them methods to get better. Which is very rare. A lot of the doctors they're kind of like historians, and then with a little bit of construction. They want to go in there and bang things away and move parts around, and it's kind of sucks for the clients, right? I mean, and I'd like to see them get better too. Sometimes the surgeries make them better. Sometimes they just kind of shift the pain. But with this brain injury stuff, it's been really exciting. They're giving them tests, and they're giving them modules to work on, and they're actually seeing modest improvement. It's really great. And if you've ever had a brain injured client, it's terrible.
Terrible.
It's awful.
And you have to be an advocate for your client as far as the medical management. It's probably the first time they've hired a lawyer, but it's also definitely the first time they're going to see a neurologist. And they're scared, man.
And you think people don't know anything about the law? Try the medicine.
Oh.
I mean, shit. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
How many lawyers do we know that don't know anything about medicine? All the medicine I've learned as a lawyer. And so, I'm now on my, 22nd year or something as a lawyer. And that's a lot of training, and I go to lunch with doctors all the time. I go to, birthday parties and events and networking, and I'm talking to doctors every day, right? And, after 22 years, you start to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, and there's no way a consumer could know any of that. I mean, for the same reason when I came out of the government as a prosecutor and started doing this work, I had the paralegals explain to me what the acronyms were for insurance, like BI. I had no idea, and I was a lawyer. That's embarrassing, but,
you don't learn that stuff in law school. You learn that on the job, starting working and doing the injury cases.
Especially if you go to law school in D.C.
Yeah.
and move to Florida.
Yeah.
They're not going to teach you anything.
That's hilarious, man. Well, let's switch back to riding hazards and kind of talk about this to give our listeners some tips. So what are the most common urban hazards that you see, in your practice in Central Florida? You got a big influence of people, tourists coming to Tampa, Orlando, but also the smaller markets that you service. What do you think is the most common hazard?
Yeah, so for me, I think, a lot of the same skills you have when you drive a car, you should apply to a motorcycle, and you should just do more of it. And so for me, it's anticipating issues. Seeing certain types of cars on the road, cars with lots of school stickers. For me, when I'm driving, I pay close attention to vehicles like that, because they're probably driven by someone in school who's not paying attention, they don't have the divided attention skills that they think they have, and so they're texting or they're TikToking or whatever, and they're driving and they're picking music and they're having conversations and they're carrying on, and they don't appreciate really that they're driving a very heavy vehicle at very high rates of speed around other human beings and other vehicles. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is just start to anticipate problems ahead of time. You see a truck that's having trouble staying in their lane, figure out a way to get way ahead of it or stay behind it, right?
Do you get a lot of pedestrian accidents down there? I would think so.
Yeah, especially in communities like St. Petersburg and the Villages and Gainesville. St. Petersburg has a really vibrant walking scene. They've got a very walkable downtown. It's a younger city. Tampa, not as much, I haven't found. I'm not saying that we haven't had pedestrian injuries there, but Tampa, not as much. You'd think you'd be the same, but it's not. And then the Villages, you've got a lot of people walking around from golf courses to different communities. They're obviously older. You get some shufflers, as we like to say, that shuffle their feet a little bit instead of picking up their feet. That creates other issues. And in Gainesville, you've got a whole population of students just meandering around the city all time of day for all types of reasons.
Are those usually good cases for you? Do you have good case law? Because a lot of times, just like bikers, they're going to find the pedestrian at fault.
Yeah,
the cop never saw it. They take them to the emergency room and they get blamed.
Yeah. About 13 months ago, they were great cases because the laws were very nice. We had a pure comparative state where even if the jury found that you were 30% at fault or 50% at fault or even 70% at fault, it was just a matter of mathematics. If you had $10,000 in damages and you were 60% at fault, but 40% was the other person's fault. If they determined $10,000 of damages, you were going to make a $4,000 recovery. Now, if you do not convince a jury that the other party is 50% plus one at fault, more than 50% at fault, you get zero.
Brutal.
It's incredibly harsh. It's totally unnecessary. To think that they would pass that law while insurance companies are posting record profits. Record profits.
CEO
right?
record bonuses.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Right.
People do not understand this.
And then months before that, they totally stripped the state of avenues of recovery for property damage with your homeowner's coverage, which is going to really, really upset a lot of people who move down to Florida, put their nest egg into a home, and then a hurricane comes along, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So to do that during the midst of all of that was incredibly cruel, I thought, really petty. They certainly demonstrated that insurance companies have a stronghold on the legislature in Tallahassee. My hope is maybe since the governor's recent endeavor has failed, that
you'll get some change.
Well, maybe he'll be a little more beholden to Floridians as opposed to Iowans or South Carolinians.
Yeah, South Carolinians for sure. So let's switch back to motorcycles. I know you've sponsored and taught some of these accident scene management classes. I've touched on some of the benefits there, but what other courses could you recommend to a biker to stay on their toes and keep their skills sharp? Because if you're not always riding or always doing whatever you're doing, you're going to lose some skills and lose some train of thought, and accidents can happen.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, being on a motorcycle is the most dangerous of the other modes on a highway, right?
Yeah.
It's more dangerous than being in a truck. It's more dangerous than being in a car because you don't have seatbelts and roofs and windshields and all these things, right? So for me, I always think about it like pilots. Like when you see airplane crashes and helicopter crashes, like the great majority of them, it's always the same thing. It's that weekender guy, maybe an attorney or a doctor who thinks he doesn't need to do all the classes. He's smart enough. He can figure it out. And the problem is they don't fly enough, right? And they run into problems. And so for me, like for bikers, like continue to do training classes. You can take advanced training classes, as you know. Many of the dealerships, I know Harley does them.
Yep.
Road Guardians, which is an incredible organization, they do them. But there's like traffic schools where you can do them as well.
Yep.
There's a lot of places you can do this, but that's what I say is like, constantly be looking at your bike, thinking about how it's working, but keep going to classes and stay on top of things. It'll just make you a better rider, and I think in a better position to anticipate all those dangers that are out there because you're talking to people and you're taking in information.
Right. And, of course, we teach this in these accident scene management classes. We go over the UIM that we discussed. Another thing that we touch base on, and I want to get your point of view and what you think, if you can add anything special. What do you think they should keep on their bike, if they do come into a situation where they drop the bike or they're in a wreck or somebody falls?
Well, I mean, for me, like, you need to have some sort of first aid trauma kit as really helpful, and some law firms will give them to you if you ask.
Yeah.
Or if you see them at an event. I know you have one. I have one as well. And for anybody listening to this, if you're in South Carolina or in Florida and you want one, just ring us. We'll give you one.
Yeah, we make sure they're taken care of. They take the class, and we both of us make sure they're set up good.
But the other thing too is like I think it's important to have some sort of like index card or something related to not only who you are, but also who they should call, right? Because if you're down and out, they don't know who to call, right? So, your, what do they call it, your ICE number in case of emergency, right?
Yep.
I think it's very important to have that somewhere on your bike as well.
We've touched on a lot of points, and we're talking about motorcycles, but let's switch modes because bikers don't always fall. They don't always get in a wreck, but they need other legal help. And I have different practice areas, and so do you. How else do you help bikers? Yeah,
that's a great point, Justin. And I know in your practice is the same as mine, that we handle other things, like obviously car accidents, truck accidents, as well as motorcycle accidents. But, nursing home cases, medical malpractice, all the mass torts that we work with, like the Camp Lejeune claims, right, for veterans, mostly Marines, that went through that area, AFFF, talc, there's just so many of these mass torts that we work on that touch the biker community because they have moms or they have dads or sons or they themselves are people who can make these claims, and we work on those things. So the biker community is important to us because for us, we see them as clients. We don't see them as bikers. They happen to be bikers, but these are human beings who have all the same issues that all of our other clients have. Yep. And anytime we can put ourselves out there, we want to.
We have to educate them. A lot of our biker clients, people that we make relationships with are veterans. And a lot 100%. Of these mass torts are affecting veterans. We signed tons of 3M. I'm sure you did too. Yeah. Of course, the AFFF, Camp Lejeune. The first thing I did when I knew those litigations came out is I touched base with all the veteran organizations that that we work with in the motorcycle community, right. And they all know, like, and trust the lovely law firm Injury Lawyers, and it was an easy choice for them to hire us for their mass tort.
Yeah, at Whittle Melton, the first name partner before me is Robert Whittle. He was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. And so we have a lot of connections with the military. It's an important community for us. And specifically in Central Florida, we have a really high rate of veterans that live in the area. And in a lot of our personal injury cases, we're constantly dealing with the VA. So, these people, I enjoyed being able to help them because this was, for Camp Lejeune in particular, so many people were affected by it, and they were basically laughed at by the government.
Yeah, for years, when they knew about it.
So many times, yeah. They've known about it for a very long time. They were laughed at, called crazy, and then finally the domino fell, and they were like, okay, let's deal with this. And, as we're filming this, it's certainly like we're still in kind of the middle of it. Who knows how it's going to end, but I've certainly enjoyed learning about the causation issues, and how the DOJ is doing this. Like, it's a very unique process. I can't remember in my career dealing with the DOJ handling a mass tort. Like, it's very unique.
Yeah. And then they've offered that elective option. They're trying to get that which nobody qualifies for. They're just dangling a carrot.
Right.
I think out of all the litigations, maybe there's like 4 clients that have settled. It's ridiculous.
And then also, if you remember in that first offering, where they offered that this schedule of certain diseases for certain amounts of money, to me, like, I found the most outrageous part I found is like, what the fuck are you doing? Sending letters to these clients?
Yeah,
they have lawyers.
Oh yeah,
the Department of Justice. You're going to send direct communication about my clients' cases without telling me?
Without talking to us.
It was outrageous.
And it was like overnight too.
It was the most outrageous shit I've ever seen. And I guess the Department of Justice can't get in trouble because they're not a named lawyer or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is totally inappropriate ethically in every state in the country. Yeah. I can't send letters to people directly who have lawyers. That's crazy. Coming from another lawyer, you can't do that. I was really, really, I was discouraged and frustrated that the judge and that assigned district in North Carolina did do something about that in particular. I found that really gross. Yeah. Because, a lot of these cases, mass torts are hard. They're like herding cats. You have a lot of people with these claims, and, you want to be able to talk to each and every one of them about their options. But when you're ambushed with a letter, for the first 3 or 4 times you get a call about it, you look like an idiot because you don't even know about the letter and know what's in it, right? And then once you start to figure it out, then you got to figure out who got this letter, right? And what are they thinking? And are they talking to their uncle? Are they talking to some other lawyer? Like, it's crazy.
Not making it easy on us at all.
Super unprofessional and unethical, and I just didn't like that at all.
The good news is, we've got some bellwether tracks, at least diseases picked, so that's going to be good. So hopefully we can get a trial. Of course, we're probably going to get continued, but we have an aggressive schedule going on. Yeah. Everybody needs to understand, too, they still have 6 months, to sign cases up until that statute runs. So there is a chance to keep it going.
What is the deadline for the...
When did Biden sign it? July? Sometime in July?
I think it was the end of July or beginning of August or something.
Yeah, so I don't know the exact
So we
date,
have the first half of this year.
7 months left? Yeah. If we don't, you got to get it in because you got to file your administrative claim first, and then we got to start litigating it. And I know your firm's doing great. You have plenty of clients and lovely law firm too.
Yeah.
Reach out to Jason or reach out to me. Firefighting.
But I love the AFFF.
Yeah, firefighting phone.
I find this the most interesting because I think that we have not heard the end of PFAS. I think it's going
just getting started.
I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be like sort of the the
mesothelioma of our generation.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's going to
It's
be
going to bankrupt some people, and there's going to have to be trusts, and it's going to be a long. And you
Well,
got to
not just
figure out
that.
where were they exposed.
we're going to have a lot of medical problems. For
Can't
a
clean
lot
it
of
up.
people.
How are we going to clean that up?
No, I
No
know.
way.
And
It's in everything.
It's in everything.
Everything. People
Yeah.
don't understand it.
I mean,
It's scary, man.
like as we sit here today, like just moments ago, both of us were drinking out of plastic water bottles.
Nanoparticles. Glug, glug,
I
glug.
mean, the
We're-
microplastics, like it's
what are we going to do?
right, and so that's scary. And of course, the issue in these cases is not that it happened, right? Because people shouldn't be responsible for things that they didn't know about. The problem is they knew about this stuff, they have known about this stuff, and they act like it doesn't exist. And that's always the issue. It's not that it happened. It's when did you know it, right? Or what did you know and when did you know it, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is just the first round. So these are claims dealing with firefighters and military who dealt with this chemical. Specifically, you find a lot of them on airports because these firefighting foams are really good to put out flames on aircraft. But also
And they trained with it.
100%.
And it's just they're just getting doused with it, and nobody told them anything.
So firefighters,
No protective
yeah,
material.
all firefighters, and
Even civilians that were working on there.
right. So, it's really something to think that this first claim is going to be people who essentially agreed to sacrifice their lives, right, and their health to help other people in need, right? That they're the ones getting these cancers. It's
sad. It's
very
ridiculous
sad,
too.
yeah.
It's just like at Camp Lejeune, man. The
Yeah.
Marines were fighting for our freedom, right? Dying every day, and then they come home to get jerked around by the government. Same thing's happening now.
It's really bad.
They're firefighters on the airports and
Right.
military bases. I mean, it's terrible. So
Yeah.
that's why we step in and handle these kind of cases,
Right.
man. We have to level the playing field with the government, with corporations. Who's going to fight for them if
Matt,
we don't stand up for
And
them?
we were talking about personal injury lawyers and how these other advertisers kind of give us a strange look. I mean, candidly, you talk about strange look. Mass Torts is filled with the strangest lawyers all over the country who don't even come out of their office. They've never walked into a courtroom in their lives. They
Yeah.
just amass these clients. But there's a lot of lawyers, good lawyers like you and I, and a lot of our friends that handle these cases as well. And we implore to use all the normal techniques that we do in any case, right? They're different because they're mass torts, but you can call us, you can talk to us. So I like to think if anybody has one of these types of claims, hire lawyers like us. Don't hire these mass TV campaign guys. You're never going to talk to anybody
Yeah.
over there.
You'll have
At
no
best-
idea who your
at
lawyer
be-
is.
At
Yeah.
best, you'll have a paralegal. At
Right.
best.
Yeah. Always advise stay local. You
Yeah.
know, you're in Central Florida. You're doing great work down there.
Right.
You got Google the Whittle and Melton. Google Jason Melton. See the verdicts and settlements. I've seen them. They're top notch, big
Yeah.
dog settlements. Well, tell everybody how to. We've been talking. Tell everybody how to get in touch with you, man.
Well, the easiest way to go to the website, which is thefllawfirm.com, thefllawfirm.com. And otherwise, you could type in Whittle and Melton. As far as I know, there's no other Whittle and Meltons out there. So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll find us. You might find Morgan & Morgan because, they like to
Bid on your name.
They like to bid on my name, but
Yeah. Also, they can follow you on Instagram too. You're Instagram famous. People don't understand that, or at least
Yeah.
you are in the legal community.
yeah, Jason Melton Esquire.
There you go.
I like to do videos. A lot of them travel related. I like to travel. I'm not big on stuff. People are. Somebody asked me the other day, why do you do so much traveling? It doesn't make that look like you don't work. And I'm like, this is how I want to spend my money.
Yeah.
I don't buy junk. I don't
Experiences, 100%.
I don't accumulate stuff. Other than
Live your life, man. You're doing a good job of it.
other than tennis shoes, I just want experiences.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I know we got a closed door marketing meeting tomorrow. Hope to
You
learn
bet.
some more from you. And
Thanks,
let's
Justin.
keep this podcast episodes going. We'll check in with you throughout the year, and we'll go from there. Does that
Awesome.
sound good?
Thanks, Justin.
All right, man.
See you, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to sign off here again. This is Justin Lovely here. I'm coming at you live from Red Rock Harley Davidson, Myrtle Beach Biker Lawyer.com, powered by the lovely law firm Injury Lawyers. We'll see you next time.